Hello everyone from Global Marketing Summit 2023. We'll be talking about a really hot topic today. And that topic is, yes, quite discussed, but it's already been discussed for hundreds of years. It's the sustainability of family companies. It's not only in Turkey, but also discussed all around the globe. And there is no one right or one wrong. There are multiple examples, and this week at Harvard Business School there will be a seminar, and one of the agenda items is how not to bankrupt your family business. And I think this is something that's been taught in schools across the globe. And we'll be delving into this with really valuable guests today. Let me just introduce them to you. We have Başak Öğütgen Çetinkaya from Fatih Denetim. He's managing partner. She's a managing partner and GYİAD vice chairman. We have Mustafa Özer, president of GYİAD and chairman of NPM Gıda. Kiel, the CEO and GYİAD member, Sene Camcı, and we have Berkay Somal, board member at Somal Holding and GYİAD vice president. As you can understand, we all have shared platform, a shared common aspect. We all are a member of GYİAD. So I'd like to start by asking GYİAD, also president of GYİAD, and is the manager of a family business. The first question is, when you look at family members, when you look at statistics, 80% of them fail to actually smoothly transition from first generation to second generation in terms of sustainability. And what is the root cause of this? What do you think? And what could be the measures to be taken to prevent this? And before actually going into that question, maybe we can talk about GYİAD, something that we all share. Maybe you can talk about it, introduce it a little bit, and then move on to the question. Thank you. Thank you, Fatih. Young Managers and Business People Association, founded in Istanbul. It's you have young managers gathered under the NGO's roof. We have members from first generation, second generation representatives, and senior level managers of family companies. We try to develop projects for the future of business, future of young people. What do we do? We work on entrepreneurship. We have some academies in GYİAD Academy. We have trainings. We embrace AI in sustainability. We have for sustainable environment. We work on agriculture, forestry. We work on economy. We work on employment. A working group that delivered reports. And what we do is we try to embrace and safeguard their future, starting from today. Coming to your question, as you mentioned, I graduated from business administration from Koç University, then I worked in the US. I never went back to family business. Maybe we have an industrial family dating back to 75 to 80 years. I also have a capability, a skill as an entrepreneur, and also have NGO experience and many other experiences from family businesses as well. 95% of companies in Turkey are family businesses, and 50% of them have been institutionalized. And the lifespan of them is around 34 years. Their success rate of going to fourth generation is 34%. And with 100 years companies, we only have 20. So you have the founding leader establishing the company, who can actually take fast decisions, who's respected by the family, who is agile, and someone who has helped their business grow. And after that founding leader, the question actually comes into mind. You have this break from that trajectory when you move on to the second generation. There are some root causes, but let's start with the one. It's the loss of the founding leader. When you have the founding leader pass away, when it's a strong founding leader, then the follow-up generation cannot live up to that profile. So when you have a strong generation follow a strong leader, that's something that that does not happen all the time. Even though the next generation is quite well trained, that training does not equate to a good leadership. So we have to really give respect to, pay respect and give props to the strong founding leader. And maybe it's the failure of the founding leader not to actually leave the scene, leave the stage to the next generation, and they believe they view their company as their child, and they don't want to leave that child in the hands of the next generation. And when the brave ones, the most capable ones leave the company, then the remaining ones are unhappy. That really disrupts the chemical, the chemistry in the company, and that leads to quitting of the legacy workforce. So they don't have new goals because when you have the previous goals already reached by the previous leader, then you don't have a goal, you don't have aspiration, you don't have drive, then you don't have success. And this example that I'll give is quite the contrary. So you have the founding leader that actually wanting the next generation to embrace the company, and the next generation does not actually embrace the company. Then you have lack of sustainability. So what do? You should institutionalize. That is something that we all may agree on. When you have the founding leader still alive, you should write down a bylaw, a contract. You need to make sure that have a contract that should be included in the family's contract, and you also need to be listed in the stock exchange. You are then audited by the government, and it actually ensures longevity. So when you institutionalize, it is the guarantee of sustainability. It's actually an insurance. So 95% of companies are family businesses in Turkey, and the importance of sustainable family members, family businesses, is vital for our economy. Thank you, Mustafa. You've touched on various aspects of this topic. Başak, let's continue with you. You are in a completely different industry. There could be some parallelisms to the problems mentioned by Mustafa, and there could be some differences. So what is your take on that? Hello, everyone. I'm working at a company, a 70-year-old company. I'm the third generation family member as a managing partner. Professionally, we have external we have people outside of the family members serving as managers, and we also have family members serving as managers. Since we work in consulting, there are some really experiences that we can leverage on. Why do we not have sustainability in family members, family companies? I have some experience from the customers that we have, and we also have some, we provide services, and we provide these services to family businesses. There are some conflict between generations. The following generation does not actually have the same language as the previous generation. There are some interfamily conflicts that are reflected into the company, and the root cause is institutionalization. If you do not have your family council and cannot really separate what happens in the house, sort of seeps into the company, and when that happens, that affects the company decisions, and this affects people's perspective, internal control, and the internal reporting systems. When it's really hard to integrate them. We have some programs that is, they sort of train their hairs, and if you do not have the opportunity to actually train the hairs from the get-go, those people who have never actually had any experience with the business, and then try to make them a senior level manager after their graduation. That leads to nepotism, and also the other problems that are inherent around the globe. Then you have the heritage problem, and you have the inheritance problem, and he got that, she got that, so on and so forth. So the next generation doesn't know, the previous generation doesn't know actually how to transfer that to the next generation. So how we can do that is through a shareholding contract. A shareholding contract can ensure how the following generation can be integrated into the company. These are things that we should actually touch on in terms of sustainability. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that great input. It's a brand new perspective that we can actually look at, that we can use to look at the sustainability. There's inheritance, there's in-family conflict. I want to hear from Sena. She's also from another industry, but there are probably some parallelisms there. You work in the ready-to-wear, one of the largest ready-to-wear companies, and you're the third generation in that company. And as we all know, the founder of the company was a guru in the textile industry in Turkey, and you being the granddaughter of that generation is quite challenging, probably. There is some burden to that, I know, but you have the accurate answer. So could you please answer that? Thank you for that great question. And I'd like to thank all of them, all the people for creating Global Marketing Summit. When you were talking about the speech, I was quite excited. When we talk about sustainability, we actually have this great burden not to bankrupt the company. I think we're not bankrupting the company. I don't know if it's going to happen in the future or not. I don't know what's going to happen. We hope we won't bankrupt the company. We hope that we'll have a future full of success with the right team and the right strategy. Not only for our sector, but also for I would like to talk about our brand. Abdullah Kulu is a well-respected, well-known business person. And Kulu, you have these really hard to pronounce brand name that has reached 90% brand awareness. So it's quite important in the men's wear in category. We are market leaders, and to ensure sustainability and ensuring it's passed down for generations to come, quite substantial in terms of its contribution to the economy and the development of Turkey. We hope we won't bankrupt it. Let me just talk about my grandfather. In terms of sustainability, I'm in the third generation, and people who are like me, they expect from us and from the third generation, for us to be sustainable, we need one thing. We have one KPI, we have one goal, and that is an overarching goal, to be honest. You have to be humble. You need to be humble, because when you do that, you need to make sure that you're going to start from the very bottom. You need to learn about everything. You cannot just start from the top. You're going to become an apprentice first. They would talk about working the table, working the logistics, maybe just delivering tea or security. You need to know how they feel, what they do, the hardships that they experience. So you need to make sure that you can empathize with the employees. It's really important. It's not a boss and a worker relationship that you have. It's the true empathy that is the foundation of sustainability within our family. If you have people, as a personality, if you cannot really understand that, then you cannot really function. Our grandfather would really dictate that to us. Then you start from the very bottom in the company, from the very low position. So if you can just reach these goals, Then my grandfather sent me to other companies in Turkey and internationally so that I gain experience after working in various departments at GYİAD. Then there was is transfer of management, and we are still in that transition period because it's gonna take some time. The most important thing for us is, as I mentioned, empathizing with the employees, finding the right team, and having that team spirit. We need to make sure the sustainability of this workforce-focused ecosystem. Thank you. That was quite insightful. Starting with humility and starting from the very zero. It's really important. Thank you for what you shared. Berkay is in a completely different industry, but I think it's really governed by tradition because you're working in steel and metal industry, and we're talking about industry that has been around for hundreds of years, for centuries, and you've had the great burden of taking over that tradition. How do you see the problems and the solutions? I think that's a great highlight that you mentioned. One of the things that I wanted to mention was the tradition, because at first, when you opened the panel, you said how the Harvard Business Review was mentioning how not to bankrupt the company, and Economist magazine in a previous edition answered it, and it said if you don't change, you'll go bankrupt. So I think it's all about change. In Turkey, you have family ties quite strong and tradition, taking center stage in that path that in these countries, it could be more critical and harder to actually achieve. And as Mustafa said, 95% of companies in Turkey are family businesses, and you have the GDP is, 75% of the GDP is made up of family members, family companies. And you have, if you cannot have the 90% of them fail, then every 50 to 60 years, we lose the economic and commercial know-how lost. It's not just for the sustainability of companies, it's actually for the sustainability that should be embraced by the broader society. The steel and metal, the steel and iron industry is quite lays the foundation of Europe. As you know, it's the raw material that is used in the foundation of everything that we built. So in industries such as us, there is some permanent resistance to change. It's not just in the transition from the first generation to second. Maybe it still continues on to all the generational changes. The main problem here is that it's change. When people change, it's not only just people change, it's also the period that changes. And you have the conditions, the goals, the vision that changes. What we need to do is that while we're in that period of transition, we shouldn't lose our values, lose our people. And to do that, we need to make sure that we can render that we should render these companies independent of their of their family members that they're running them. What doesn't change is change itself. It's quite cliche. Still, it's quite true today, and we need to base our actions on that. It's not just doing a hard reset of a company, and maybe we should not do that because you shouldn't lose corporate memory. There are really well-established values and cultures, cultural elements there, so you need to preserve that. But we need to make sure that it's aligned with the requirements of today. And after every generational transition, both generations, the existing and the next generation, they need to understand that when they are taking active roles within the company, they should design that collaboratively. That transition should be designed collaboratively. There are 5 main pillars. So one of them is vision, the other one is skill, talent, and resources, incentives, and investment plan. If we cannot set the right goals, then whatever we do, we're just gonna fall short. No matter what we do, if you don't know that you are in the right path, then it doesn't matter what you do. As the representatives of stakeholders within the company, we should make sure that we have a clear-cut vision. We need to understand the talent that is required, identify the talent that can do that. Maybe we can look within the family or look outside of the company. Make sure that we have all the intellectual and financial assets utilized efficiently, and to ensure the elimination of resistance towards change, we need to set up some incentives to help people embrace change. We need to make sure that it's all well embedded into an action plan. While doing that, it's also priority to preserve the corporate memory, the values, and the culture that makes up that company. Just for the sake of changing or updating something, we shouldn't just erase the past and leave it behind. When we do that with success, that we have that vision that we need to actually be guided by, that vision should be branding. There are valuable and quite successful companies in Turkey, and they can become global players in the international arena. From my perspective, these are the main factors. And the most important key has been mentioned for sustainability. It's change. So in general, when we look at it, for sustainable success, the most important change in organizations is institutionalization. But across companies and in all corners of the world, when you have the management undertaken by family members, and it's that they don't have a roadmap. It's not just having family members, but what I mean by that is that involving professionals. There are many examples in Turkey and around the globe, and there's only one fits all. So from your perspective, Mustafa, let me just turn to you again. Do you do you think that's a necessity to have family members in the company? Let me just uh, I tell you that I'm not in family business. I did not really get involved in them. I do my own business, and when you have the next generation, if they have a story, that a narrative, if they have a different goals, if they think that they will find success in other fields, and if they feel comfortable in someplace else, then the family member or the shareholder should not actually be involved in family businesses. If they want to be involved in family businesses, when you have, the family member representatives and the next generation, if the shareholder does not run, if they believe that they don't deserve it professionally, then they have to make sure that it's based on meritocracy and leave it to someone who actually deserves it. It's about self-confidence, and it's all about democracy. So they need to make sure that they need to let go of their management hat and work in business development roles. Should they be involved in the sustainability of a family business? Yes, they should, but there should be some norms, there should be some governing rules, and these rules should be put in the policies of the in the vision, in the mission of the company. They need to have that already written down, so that these are not to be confused with anything else. So everything should be clear. There should be no lies. They should have correct delegation of authority. You need to have the correct people, the right people in the right positions, and you need to make sure that these people should not be chosen based on, emotion. The decision-making processes should be discussed based on responsibility, levels of responsibility, and that's only then you have professionals, shareholders, and family members can work in unison and harmony, and you can have the next generations can take functional roles, which will result in really successful management, and it will lead to success, really great results. Okay, Bashak, what is your take on this? As I mentioned, there isn't any one-size-fits-all solution there. And you're a third generation, and you're talking about a 70-year-old company. Fatih Denetim, you probably had some various other approaches. Do you have your own correct way of doing things, for Fatih Denetim, and what do you think personally? Let me just take this perspective. The primary goal is to ensure that this is passed down through generations. So the main goal of founding a family company is that it should live on through generations, and that that could actually help future generations thrive. So the main idea is to make sure that the family members in the next generations can be involved in the management of the company. Let me just introduce another dimension. Yes, this is right. You need the next generation involved, but if the family, for the family to actually profit from this company, they need to ensure sustainability. Since company is independent, operates independently of its individuals that are running them, we need to make sure that the interest of the company is of highest priority. The question is, how can we integrate family members into the structure? First of all, when you have a family member getting involved in this air planning, and they're involved in that company, we need to design how the next generation will be embedded in the company. First of all, as Sena mentioned, they may start from, they have to actually start from the very bottom, and they also absolutely have to report to professionals. When you start from the bottom, you will have a direct report, and you will have your direct report, and you will know, your areas of improvement. You need to make sure that you have skills measurements. Not everyone's skills are fit for all positions. There shouldn't be nepotism. There shouldn't be discrimination. You need to make sure that people are chosen based on their merit. Let me just talk about our own family business structure. We have some rules in place governing Fatih Denetim. You need to make sure that one member from each family, and that member will have to have studied in certain will have to have majored in certain field. They need to have some experience nationally, internationally, and when they are involved in the company, when they are actually hired, they need to work across various departments and have to report what they do to their superiors. And it's only that, climbing that ladder that you need. So air planning is the task of positioning the right person in the right location of within the company. When you think someone else is more, better fit, then you can assign someone else from outside the company or outside the family in that position. The executive board and the family council should be integrated. You need to have the family council, the family committee. They will have their own ideas, their own experiences. It's where everyone's voice is heard, but it's only for suggestions. And you will have an executive committee as well, and the management committee where you have the family members. This is how the holdings work currently, and I believe the sound version is that you need to have separate, the executive board, the executive committee, and the family committee. You need to ensure that they have to be separate, and that's when you have growth and strength in family companies. And right on that note, let's turn to Sena. Do you have a similar structure, Sena? Do you have the family committee separate and the management separate and the executive committee separate? And did you go through that air, nurturing program? And I believe that Abdullah really acts as a mentor in your life. But what is your my grandfather is still not a mentor. He still works. I mean, that's what I meant by he's still trying to the turnover, the turnover that he can meddle with anything that he likes. He's in the office 5 days a week. So we have separate, we have these different committees working separately. I'm just exaggerating. Of course, Abdullah Kiyılı has run the company on his own, worked as an ERP. He knows, how many has been built, how many has been produced, how many has been sold, and he knows how much to be, produced. So he has done the task of 15 people on his own. So even though how the traditional mechanism is like this, it's not run as such. We have each department tasks with different jobs, and they have a professional director, and they're reporting to me, and our executive committee have the updated design. My grandfather can meddle with small details or big details. So how we define this is, I agree with Mustafa and Başak. They really provided great inputs, but if you have someone in their 80s still working in the company, some theory does not translate well into the practice. They can just meddle with anything and maybe just not follow the rule that we write. What we say is that, okay, so we have a system, there are some rules that we abide by, and only one person can meddle with that, and it's Abdullah Kiyılı. So this is how we try to preserve the system and the rules. Sometimes I write these things when we put these things down, and then he comes about, okay, you're just talking about stationary stuff. So when you have these things, when you have these people involved, it's really empowering. It shows how modern of a thinker he is. He's now transferring the company to turning over to the next generation, but he doesn't want to talk about these things because when he's that old, these things sound so detailed. And then he's like, what are you talking about? But these details are quite important for sustainability. And to be able to do that, we are trying to do our best. Every family, every family company have different cultures, of different inner workings. So I think there's no one size fits all solution. But the way to go is to take the temperature of the founder of the company, maybe or the founding family of the company. You need to sort of play in the hands of your family, founding family member. This is how things work. He can just meddle with anything, and there is no way that he is not going to meddle with anything. But at the end of the day, we have a corporate family structure and culture. We try to preserve that. Where we are at odds with my grandfather is that, where we have the conflict is that I try to leave the floor to his professional CEO and act as a bridge. He hears me, but he doesn't ever respond and gets into the process because rightfully so, to own the business, he knows that it's quite important, and he believes that a professional will not be owning that business as much as a family member. And the day, today is quite different. You have great best practices, and you can have the family members involved in the board, in the executive board, and you can have success still. with this professional CEO, and I can see that, and I believe it applies to all of you. And what I take from these is that, of course, Mustafa has a separate case. He continues on his own, and Başak, Berkay, and Sena, you have strong level of trust, and it actually exudes from you. And I think that the audience can also feel that, and that was a great example. So Berkay, let me just turn to you. We've already talked about the majority of these of this aspect, but you can maybe talk about in detail, specific to Somat Holding. I'm professional. I don't run I'm run a family company. I'm sort of an exception. I'm not working at a family company. We are somewhat alike with Mustafa. But what I really want to know is that people usually talk about in businesses, in companies, this we have a goal, you talk about that goal, and how can we actually attain that goal? That's what you discuss, right? And what I really want to know is that when you're talking about these in family companies, what do you do in the meantime with the team to achieve that vision? And to actually achieve that vision, is it going to be Berkay that will be the leader, or will we have other professionals joining in? Do you have like 5-year, 10-year plans like these? That's a great question, Fatih. Thank you. And this should be a tailor-made solution. So for each company, every family have separate and different vision, culture, tradition, and industries where they operate in. So according to all of that, the companies should assess situations differently. We don't have one-size-fits-all solution. It should be tailor-made. But I believe that there's a must for all of us. And I believe that it's sort of a move away from a one-man show. This is the path that we should follow, all of us. We should make sure that companies are independent of the capabilities of a single individual. And we also should be reminded of something. Başak also said it. The priority is to ensure that company is passed down for generations to come. And if we're going to do that, when we actually join the company, we should leave our surnames, our egos, our characters outside of the door. When we join a company, we are the family member. We're going to be the future. We are the boss. If we say that, these personal interests and expectations can become a matter of conflict with those of the company. To ensure that sustainability in our companies, delegation is a must. We cannot walk this path alone. We need to have professional managers, professional teams joining us, helping us complete that journey. It's all about the delegation, and you need to make sure the level of professionalism that you require in each position. And it's the goals that will be set by the family that can chart that path. We started with the iron and steel, and we started with the in the Perşembe Bazaar. We were founded there. It's one of the most well-established commercial areas in Istanbul, and now we are operating on an unprecedented stage. When you compare it to back then, I'm the third generation representative of the family, and what we do is we, take shared roles, but it shouldn't be the same for each company. You can have all 3 generations working within the company. Sometimes you only have the loss or the health issue of a generation only for the next generation to take over. So it's based on how it should be a tailor-made solution, as I mentioned. So, and we are playing a key role as the head of the executive committee. I'm running, I'm the chairman of the executive committee, as the third generation, and we also have other family members in the board with second generation, well, first generation, third generation. We have a mixed structure here. The most important thing is to, if we just put really unattainable goals for the sake of institutionalization, you need to ensure that you have a really successful vision. There are great best practices. Internationally, there are some offices, family offices. There are also some companies in Turkey doing that. We need to promote that. And it's not the case, it shouldn't be the case that every member of a family should be a shareholder, or they should be on the board making decisions, or it's not, they shouldn't be necessarily on the executive committee either. It all boils down to how crowded they are, how many people there are, how many generations can be working in the company, or how active they are in the shareholding structure. So this is all based on these variables. And if you are a really huge crowd, a big family, and if you try to base it on a family charter, it's really important to have a family charter that should be at play with the shareholders' agreement. It should be in the benefit, work towards the benefit of the company, and you can have them in writing and signed. But if you do not have a really huge family, if you have a really boutique family, or if you're just the first generation, just not you should not actually go in that really challenging path to draft a family charter. It would actually be in the detriment of the agility of the company if you try too hard to create that document. And let me just close with what I said in the beginning. This institutionalization journey, and I said in the first question, that branding journey, every company, every family should find a tailor-made solution that would best fit their own situation. Thank you, Başak, Mustafa, Sena, Berkay, for all your great, valuable input. And I really enjoyed this session. It was quite enlightening. And I think something common is that whatever you're going to do, you have to do it systematically. And as also Berkay said, we need to make sure that it's all tailor-made. We don't have a one-size-fits-all solution. That's why it's been discussed for centuries, and it will continue to be discussed for centuries to come. But it's all been really valuable. Thank you to Global Marketing Summit and all those watching for joining us.